Welcome to Tell the Truth, John Adams edition. I will be answering questions as John Adams 1, John Adams 2, and John Adams 3. You will need to take notes and try to figure out which one of these 3 John Adams is truly the real one and which 2 are imposters. Now you will be taking these notes on the front side of your sheet, and at the end we'll be writing a summary.
Hello, this is To Tell the Truth, John Adams. Question 1. How did you feel about France bribing you? Again, how did you feel about France bribing you? Okay. Question number 2. Why did you go to France? Again, why did you go to France? Question 3. Explain what happened at the Boston Massacre and why you chose to defend the British. Number 4. What do you do to America as president? Kind of a weird question, but I don't make them. And finally, the last one. Why did you like being president? Okay, again, why did you like being president?
We're going to begin with question 1.
How did you feel about France bribing you?
I'm answering as John Adams, number 1. Of course I was upset, but what are you going to do? The French are just like that. So I decided, even though I was angry enough to go to war and wanted to go to war, that I would heed the advice of my Federalist cabinet and stay out of it, remain neutral. Again, I wanted to go to war, but my Federalist cabinet warned me to stay out. John Adams, number 2. I was angry. All American citizens were angry. But I knew as president I needed to remain calm and not make a rash decision. So I decided to remain neutral because I knew if we went to war with France we would probably lose, since France had a much more developed military than we did at the time. John Adams, number 3. I did go to war with France. I sent over spies who cleverly assassinated the XYZ foreign ministers who had attempted to ask for a bribe. That was question number 1. Please record your notes. Now we will have our second question.
Why did you go to France?
I went to France because my wife Abigail had been suffering from a lung ailment, and I felt that if she went to France, the climate there would be good for her health. John Adams, number 2. During the American Revolution, I was called to France as a minister. I went to France seeking aid for the American Revolution. I was there with Benjamin Franklin. We were ultimately successful in negotiating aid from the French. However, I believe that Mr. Franklin probably had more success with the French than I did. We just had too different a personality to get along. John Adams, number 3. I went to France during the American Revolution. I was seeking aid for our cause, and since the French were an obvious enemy of Great Britain, I thought for sure they would send over supplies, ammunition, perhaps even soldiers and ships. Now, please record your notes, and we will move on to question number 3.
Why did you defend the British soldiers at the Boston Massacre?
Trial. Do you not mean trial?
Trial.
Thank you. Now we will hear from John Adams, number 1. I defended the British soldiers because they had a lot of money. And as a lawyer, I found it hard sometimes to make a living. I didn't want to represent them, but they could pay me well, and so I took on their case and represented them in court when they were being accused of murdering those innocent individuals at the Boston Massacre. John Adams, number 2. I took on the British soldiers' case because I believed, as British citizens, they were entitled to a fair trial and did not deserve to be convicted by the court of public opinion, but instead by a real court of law. And now we will hear from John Adams, number 3. I took on the case of the soldiers because, again, I believe they were entitled to rights. Everyone is entitled to certain rights. And since I, in my heart, came to find out that they perhaps were not the instigators of the massacre, that they deserved representation. Please jot down your notes. We are now going to move on to question 4.
What did you do to help America during your presidency?
Well, obviously, just being John Adams and being president helped America. I mean, I'm awesome. I'm probably the smartest president this nation has ever had. Now we will hear from John Adams, number 2. Well, I know that history has debated my role as president, but I will tell you that I tried my best, even under constant criticism from the Democratic Republicans, to do what I felt was right. Did I make mistakes? Why, yes. I believe probably the Sedition Act was a mistake, but I thought it was necessary for the time, and so I did what I had to be an effective leader. Now we will hear from John Adams, number 3. I believe that I helped the nation by building up a strong Navy. What country can really be successful unless you have a strong Navy? And now our final question for John Adams.
How did you enjoy your presidency?
I loved it. The power, the parties. It just was nonstop fun for me. I didn't want to leave. And when Jefferson was elected, I left in the middle of the night because I was jealous of all the fun he was going to have being president. John Adams, number 2. I thought I wanted the job. I really did. I thought that if I could just become president and stop being vice president, I would find success as a leader. Little did I know that you can't make everyone happy. And being president meant that you had to try to make everyone happy. I hated the job. It hated me. I was never able to carry out any of the ideas or plans that I had in my head. John Adams, number 3. Well, I gotta say this. There are worse things to be than president. But as far as being appreciated, no one really appreciated me. They didn't think I did my job. They always had something to say about me. But I'll tell you this, if I could have done it for another 4 years, I would have. Now that you have heard the answers from John Adams 1, 2, and 3, it is your job on the back of your paper to write a 1-paragraph summary in which you select who you believe to be the real John Adams. Then, after you have told me whether it is number 1, number 2, or number 3, I'm going to need you to give me the 3 things that person said that make you believe he's the real John Adams. Please remember, give me specific facts, things that he said that were factual and true. Thank you, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call.